Hello everyone. Join me in this episode as we explore the Advanced Manufacturing ADMA methodology, a strategic blueprint designed to help European manufacturers, especially SMEs. We will discuss why true industrial progress is no longer just about technocratic upgrades or buying the latest robots, but about a holistic vision that integrates sustainability and human talent. I will walk you through the 7 transformations of ADMA, from the eco-factory to the human-centered organization, showing you how to treat your factory as a living organism where social innovation is just as critical as technology. If you want to understand how to stress test your operations against the EU Green Deal and labor shortages, and why viewing digitalization as a cultural overhaul is your best insurance policy for the future, this discussion is for you. Tune in to learn how to move beyond efficiency at all costs and embrace resilient, sustainable production.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going to do something a little different to start. I want you to challenge your imagination.
Oh, okay.
Close your eyes for a second. We're in 2026, so I want you to really lean into the sci-fi of it all and picture a futuristic factory. Go ahead, really see it. What comes to mind?
You know, if I had to bet, I know exactly what you're seeing. You're picturing a dark, almost cavernous room.
Yep.
It's probably humming with those cool blue LED lights. And it is just packed with sleek robots moving at like blurry speeds. And crucially, there is not a single human being in sight.
That is exactly it. That's the classic image, the lights-out factory. It's efficient, it's cold, and it's automated to the absolute teeth. But here's the hook for today's deep dive, and it's a big one. That image, it's completely wrong.
Well, it's not just wrong, it's outdated.
Outdated.
Yeah, that's the Industry 4.0 dream from maybe 10 years ago. That was the hype. Today, we're looking at a stack of research centered on a methodology called ADMA, that's Advanced Manufacturing. And the subtitle of the main European Commission document we're analyzing really gives the game away. It's called The European Path to Sustainable and Human-Centric Industry 5.0.
Industry 5.0.
Yeah.
It feels like we just finished wrapping our heads around 4.0, and now we've already moved on.
We have. But this isn't just a software update, or some marketing buzzword. This deep dive is going to be crucial for anyone trying to understand where business is heading in 2026.
Okay.
Because ADMA is described in all the literature as a paradigm shift. It's a strategic blueprint designed for manufacturers, especially small and medium enterprises, SMEs, to survive in a global market that is just fundamentally hostile to the old way of doing things.
So our mission today is to unpack this blueprint. We're going to walk through what they call the 7 transformations of ADMA.
Right.
And I think the spoiler alert here is that the most advanced factories right now aren't obsessing over getting rid of people. They're obsessing over how to keep them.
And how to survive the climate crisis, that's the absolute crux of it.
Okay, so before we get into the 7 steps, we need to establish the context. Why does ADMA even exist? I mean, why did the European Commission feel the need to create a specific European path?
Because geography is destiny in manufacturing. If you're a factory in Europe, or really any high-cost economy, you have a very specific set of constraints.
Like what?
You have very high labor costs. You have incredibly strict environmental regulations. I mean, just think about the Green Deal. And you generally rely on skilled craftsmanship, not cheap mass labor.
Which means you can't win a price war. You can't just race to the bottom against a global giant that can pump out millions of widgets for pennies.
You can't. If you try to compete on volume and price alone, you will die. You simply cannot win that game.
So you have to compete on value.
You have to compete on value. And to do that, ADMA suggests a radical shift in perspective. It suggests we stop looking at a factory as a machine and start treating it like a living organism.
I got stuck on that phrase in the reading, a living organism. It sounds a bit poetic for a manufacturing guide. What does that actually mean in practice?
Well, it's a direct rebuttal to the old way of organizing a business. Traditionally, you have IT information technology, the folks fixing the servers.
Right.
And then you have OT operational technology, the actual machines cutting metal on the floor. And usually those two departments operate in completely different worlds.
They barely even speak to each other, just distinct parts bolted together.
Exactly. The IT guys are in the air-conditioned office upstairs, and the OT guys are getting their hands dirty downstairs. And that separation, it just creates lag and inefficiency. ADMA argues that in an organism, there are no silos. The nervous system connects to the muscles, which connect to the brain. Everything is integrated.
And social innovation is as important as tech innovation.
Just as critical. If you upgrade the robot, the muscle, but you ignore the worker, The nervous system,
Yeah.
the organism fails.
So it's a shift from efficiency at all costs, which I feel was the mantra for the last 30 years, to something more like resilience.
Resilient and sustainable production. That's the new goal. You should think of ADMA as a stress
A
test.
stress test.
Yeah, it's designed to help a company ask, can I withstand a massive supply chain shock? Can I handle a new carbon tax? Can I survive when half my senior engineers retire next year?
It's essentially an insurance policy against the future. Okay, let's get into the nuts and bolts then. The ADMA framework breaks this organism down into 7 transformations.
Right. And to make this a bit more digestible, let's group them. The first group is what you might typically associate with tech. So that's transformations 1, 2, and 6.
Okay, let's unpack Transformation 1, Advanced Manufacturing Technologies. To me, this just sounds like the buying cool stuff category.
It is, but there's a huge trap here that the source material warns about very specifically. They call it the hype cycle.
Oh, we've all seen this. The CEO reads an article about 3D printing or VR, gets all excited, buys 3 units.
And 6 months later, they're gathering dust in a corner.
Because nobody knows how to actually use them.
That is what ADMA calls technology push. You bought a solution that's now looking for a problem. The mature approach is technology pull. You identify a bottleneck, then you find the tech to clear it.
And the goal is to create what they call a competitive moat.
Yes, a moat. Something your competitors can't just easily cross or copy. The example in the research is really good. Let's talk about 3D printing or additive manufacturing.
Okay.
A mature company doesn't just buy a printer to make pretty prototypes to put on a shelf. They integrate that printer directly into their supply chain to print spare parts on demand.
So, right. Imagine you're a factory manager. Instead of holding $1 million of inventory just in case a machine breaks, or waiting 3 weeks for a part from overseas.
You just print it in 3 hours.
Wow.
You've fundamentally changed your business model. You've reduced inventory costs. You've increased uptime. The printer is just the tool. The integration is the moat.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
And it leads us nicely to Transformation 2, the digital factory. This seems to be where the digital thread comes in. Can you define that for us? Because buzzwords like digital thread get thrown around constantly in tech circles.
Think of it as a single, unbroken line of data that follows a product from the moment it's a sketch on a napkin
All the way to the end of its life.
to the moment it's recycled. In most factories, that thread gets cut all the time. The design team uses CAD software, but then they print a PDF, hand it to the production manager, who manually types numbers into an Excel sheet.
The Excel sheet of death. The classic information silo.
It's a black hole for efficiency, because if the design changes, someone has to remember to update that spreadsheet. ADMA demands you eliminate those breaks.
And the ultimate expression of this is the digital twin.
Right, and I keep hearing this term get misused.
Is it just a 3D model?
No, and that's the common misconception. A 3D model is a static picture. A digital twin is a dynamic simulation. It has physics.
So you can simulate the production process in the virtual world before you ever cut a piece of metal in the physical world.
Exactly. You can crash test the production line. You can see, oh, if we run the conveyor at this speed, this robot arm is going to overheat or hit that pillar.
You catch errors when they're just pixels, which costs nothing to fix.
Instead of when they're expensive scrap metal.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Let's complete the tech trio with Transformation 6. Smart manufacturing. How is smart different from digital?
This is a nuance a lot of people miss. Smart here refers to intelligence and self-correction. The source uses the term automation.
Automation, that sounds like a typo.
It's deliberate. It's a blend of autonomy and automation. It actually comes from the Toyota production system Jidoka.
Okay.
So standard automation is a machine that blindly repeats a task. If you feed it a bad part, it will stamp that bad part 1,000 times until you hit the emergency stop button.
It's fast, but it's dumb.
Right. Automation is a machine that can detect I made a mistake or something feels wrong and it stops itself or corrects itself. The factory has reflexes.
So a real example of that.
The classic example now, in 2026, is predictive maintenance using AI. Instead of fixing a bearing when it explodes and shuts down the line for 2 days,
Right.
the machine senses vibration anomalies 2 weeks in advance. It tells the digital system, hey, I'm going to fail in about 300 operating hours. Order a replacement now.
So no human has to scramble. The problem is solved before it even becomes a crisis.
That is a smart factory. It reacts to its own environment.
Okay, so that's the tech stack, the brain, and the nervous system.
Mm-hmm.
But you said at the start that this is all about Industry 5.0. which is human-centric.
Mm-hmm.
And this brings us to the next group of transformations. And honestly, this is where I think the real friction lies for a lot of traditional business leaders.
I agree 100%. This is the heart of the methodology, and it's often the hardest part to implement culturally. We're talking about Transformation 3, the Eco Factory, and Transformation 5, the human-centered organization.
Let's be real. For a long time, eco and human-centric were treated as nice-to-haves. They were things you put in the annual report to look good, but they weren't core business strategy.
No, and that's the key differentiator. In other maturity models, sustainability is a side dish. In ADMA, it's the main course. Let's look at Transformation 3, the Eco Factory. The shift here is all about reframing the very concept of waste.
Reframing it how?
Well, traditional manufacturing looks at waste as trash, something you have to pay someone to haul away. A mature ADMA factory views waste as resource inefficiency. If you are throwing something away, material, heat, water, that is something you paid for and didn't use. It's literally money leaving the building.
That definitely hits the bottom line. Can you give a concrete example of this?
Heat recovery is a big one. Think about a factory floor. You have compressors, heavy machinery running 24/7. They generate a massive amount of heat.
Right, and usually you just blow that out the roof.
Exactly, with huge industrial fans. A mature factory captures that heat and loops it back to warm the offices or to preheat water for another process.
And with energy prices being what they are today, that isn't just saving the polar bears.
That's financial survival. It's directly tied to financial viability. Or look at product designing for disassembly.
So making things easy to take apart.
Yeah. If you make a product that can be easily taken apart so the rare earth metals can be recovered, you're not just being green, you are securing your own supply chain for the next production cycle. You're mining your own products.
That's brilliant. It's circular. Okay, then we have Transformation 5, the human-centered organization. This is the one that fights that robots will replace us narrative.
It doesn't just fight it, it renders it totally obsolete. The core question ADMA asks is this: do your robots make work safer and more meaningful for your humans?
Meaningful is a heavy word for a factory floor. Usually we just want productive.
But look at the context of 2026. We are in a massive labor shortage. If you treat a skilled worker like a robot, making them do repetitive, heavy, boring tasks, they will leave. And you cannot afford to lose them.
So how does technology make it meaningful? How do we fix that?
By removing the drudgery. Take exoskeletons. If a job requires lifting a 10-kilo part every 2 minutes, you give that worker a powered suit. You've just saved their back.
Or using augmented reality.
Yes, AR for complex assembly. It reduces what the research calls cognitive load. Instead of a worker memorizing a 500-page manual, the instructions are projected right onto the part they're working on.
Tighten this bolt to 50 Newton meters.
Exactly. It gives them superpowers, essentially. You're not replacing the worker, you're upgrading them to Iron Man.
And that fosters a culture where innovation can come from the shop floor.
Yes. If the worker isn't exhausted and stressed, they have the mental bandwidth to say, hey, if we move this tool over here, we could go 10% faster. That is gold.
I really like that distinction. Don't build a factory that doesn't need people. Build a factory where people actually want to work.
It's the only way you're going to win the talent war.
Okay, we've got the tech, we've got the heart. Now we need to look outward. Transformations 4 and 7 deal with the network.
Right. This is about realizing that the days of the black box factory are completely over. Transformation 4 is end-to-end, customer-focused engineering.
That's a bit of a mouthful.
It basically means the death of push manufacturing.
Okay, explain push versus pull for anyone who might not be in supply chain management.
So push is the old Henry Ford model. You can have any color as long as it's black. I'm going to make 10,000 widgets because it's efficient for my machines, and I'm going to push them on the market and hope you buy them.
Which works great until nobody buys them and you're stuck with a warehouse full of inventory that you have to sell at a loss.
Precisely. ADMA advocates for pull. You don't make it until the customer orders it. But the trick is doing that without completely killing your profit margin.
That's customization.
Yes. The strategy is to let customers configure products online, choosing specs, colors, whatever, and have that data feed directly into production planning. The goal is the batch of one.
So the customer clicks buy, and the robot on the floor knows instantly, okay, this next car gets the red leather seats, not the black ones.
Seamlessly. But to do that, you need Transformation 7, the value chain-oriented open factory.
No factory is an island.
You got it. This embraces open innovation. The source material is very clear. The problems we're facing, climate change, AI integration, supply chain volatility, they're way too complex for one company to solve alone.
But this is where companies get nervous. You're asking them to share data with universities, research centers, even their own suppliers. What about trade secrets? IP.
It's a calculated risk. The ADMA argument is that the benefit of responsiveness outweighs the risk of sharing.
How so?
If you are digitally integrated with your suppliers, you can see a shortage coming weeks away. If you are collaborative, you can innovate faster than the guy who locks his doors and tries to invent everything in-house.
So speed is the new IP.
Speed is the new IP.
So we have these 7 transformations. It sounds like a utopia. But let's bring it back down to earth. I'm a CEO listening to this. I'm stressed about margins. I'm skeptical. What goes wrong? What are the risks?
Well, the ADMA process starts with something called a scan. It takes, 2 to 3 hours to diagnose the company across these 7 axes, but the source highlights a major hitting risk: subjectivity.
We grade our own homework.
Exactly. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect. Companies often rate themselves as advanced because they bought an iPad for the shop floor.
Oh yeah, we're totally digital. We have a WhatsApp group for the shift managers.
You joke, but it happens. That's why the methodology introduces a certified expert called a transformer.
Wait, a transformer
Yeah.
or the 4, like the number?
Yes, Trans-S4MER.
Right.
It's a bit of a tortured acronym, I'll admit, but their role is crucial. They are the external auditor who comes in and says, actually, you aren't advanced, you're just digitized. There's a difference.
They prevent the false positive. What else?
There's the risk of breadth versus depth. ADMA covers everything from eco-design to AI. It's a strategic map, not a technical manual. It will tell you that you need a digital twin, but it won't tell you which specific software license to buy or how to code it. You still need technical specialists.
It points you in the right direction, but you still have to walk the path yourself.
Correct. And then there's the biggest risk of all. The source calls this the soft factor.
The culture.
Yes. Engineering-led organizations, places run by people who love hard data and steel, they often resist the eco and human pillars. They write them off as HR fluff.
Let HR handle the happiness. I'm building widgets.
And that cultural resistance is the #1 cause of failure, because remember the organism analogy. If the human part rejects the transplant, the whole system dies.
That leads to the final big question, ROI, return on investment. I can hear the skeptic saying, human-centric sounds nice, but it sounds expensive.
It's a massive myth, and the data completely proves it.
Okay, walk us through the math on that.
Let's look at the hard ROI first. Investments in energy efficiency, that's Transformation 3, they have some of the fastest payback periods of anything you can do.
Really?
Yeah. If you cut your energy bill by 20% by recovering heat, that cash flow improvement starts next month. That's immediate.
That's straightforward. But what about the soft stuff? The ergonomics, the meaningful work? How do you put a dollar sign on that?
Think about the cost of turnover. If you lose a skilled senior machinist, how much does it cost to find, hire, and train their replacement?
Tens of thousands of dollars, maybe more, plus all the lost productivity while that seat is empty.
Exactly. And what about error rates? A tired, stressed worker makes mistakes. A worker who is guided by AR and supported by an exoskeleton makes fewer mistakes. The ROI is found in the costs you avoid.
It's the cost of not doing it.
The source describes ADMA effectively as an insurance policy. By aligning with these standards, you are insuring yourself against regulatory shocks, like new carbon laws and labor market shocks.
And looking back from 2026, those shocks are basically the new normal. We can't pretend they aren't coming anymore.
They are. Digital transformation isn't just a hardware upgrade anymore. It is a full-on cultural overhaul.
It really seems like what the source is suggesting is that even if you don't implement the full plan, just the act of looking at your business through these 7 lenses is transformative in itself.
It forces you to look in the mirror. It forces you to stop asking, how do I make this faster? And start asking, how do I make this sustainable?
So here's our final thought for you to chew on today. If your organization underwent an ADMA scan right now today, would you pass the human-centric test? Or are you still just chasing efficiency, hoping the robots will save you?
That is the question.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you in the next one.